Hey, it's Spence from LaunchFlows.com. In this video, I'm going to do per request a combination. We're going to use LaunchFlows with Astra and Elementor, and then I'm going to set up an onboarding where a primary membership is offered to, let's say, a club, and then there will be either a variable or several simple products offered as an order bump at the checkout. I'm going to do this from scratch so you can see how it works, because I had a question today from somebody who's just hung up on some of the Elementor stuff. And I suggested to everybody, and I suggested to this person, that really Elementor is awesome, but it is so unnecessary now for doing things, even if you've got a custom page. So I want to just suggest to you that the only difference between using Elementor or using some Gutenberg with something else is just aesthetics. There's no mechanical benefit any longer. So let me walk through this, and I'm going to do this with Elementor. There are a couple things to watch out for. So let's first of all start out with WooCommerce. When you're using any other add-ons for WooCommerce, including LaunchFlows, you want to make sure that the settings are set up properly, especially for the product. So let's start out with the fact that in the General tab, there's an option for a thank you page. Now, if you haven't made one already, just simply do a placeholder for now, and you can customize it later, because you may want to send people here in the future. So let's do thank you. And I don't have to do anything special here. I just have to have the page exist. And you'll notice right now I'm still not on Astra. So I'm going to refresh this page and then go back and actually change the theme. So first of all, let's just change this to say that this is my default thank you. And I'm going to go backwards. I'll leave this tab open. I'm just going to go back to themes, and let's turn on Astra. By the way, it was asked of me before, does anybody need Elementor Pro? You do not need Elementor Pro. You can use the regular Elementor, although there's benefits to using Pro because you get some templates and lots of other things that maybe are good for your other business. Similarly with Astra, we set up LaunchFlows so it works with the free version of Astra, just like it works with the free version of Elementor. Now, there's lots of things I could customize here. I'm not going to bother too much with that. Suffice it to say, though, that you want to at least make sure that, you know, your basic options are set up, right? So for your header and your footer and your layout and so forth, just at least have those configured to something that you want. I like to particularly go and look at, you know, the general layout, right? So WooCommerce layout, full width contained. I like that. And when you're on individual pages, I really don't think there's any need to have sidebars anymore, but that's just a personal choice. Okay, now we've got the basics of having the theme. Let's go back and finish with our WooCommerce stuff. So over here, besides setting the thank you page, we want to go to the products tab. And this is the one that everybody gets hung up on, add to cart behavior. By default, we want to disable Ajax add to cart. This does some unusual stuff that you don't really need or want when you're working with LaunchFlows. In fact, you don't really need or want that with almost any add-on for WooCommerce, because this sort of hijacks the behavior of some product page or in the archive page, and we don't want it to do that. We want it to behave as we wish. Okay. Next, depending on which country you're in with accounts and privacy, I want to tell you that in most cases we want to do marketing automation. So we only want people to buy stuff if they become a user. A guest checkout sounds really great, but if we allow this option at the top to happen, you and your store will never know who bought stuff. Literally speaking, they won't become users. Whereas if you choose this option and then these three other options, they will become users, and then you can still erase stuff automatically, right? You can literally use all the GDPR stuff automatically, but for the time that they're buying stuff, you'll be able to have them registered, logged in automatically, and then interact with them for lots of other things. So take my advice, use this option, and things will go very fast. Nobody knows the difference. But you're still complying with everything. The checkout privacy, if you don't want to show that on the page, which is perfectly fine in America, you can just remove that. Then the checkout pages won't show it. You can still have a reference to it. You just literally put a link somewhere in general on the site that says, here, check out our privacy policy. If you're in the EU, you might have to leave that in place. Finally, with advanced, in the EU, you have to have a terms and conditions endpoint page set. In the United States, you do not. That's what puts that checkbox on the checkout page, which we can control, but we just don't need that here. All right, now we've got that set up. Let's do the basics of the LaunchFlows setup. If you're with almost any modern theme that has a page container that you can adjust, like I was just showing you, you don't have to worry about setting the overall layout of the customized LaunchFlows stuff. So you don't have to worry about that here. You have lots of options that are in our documentation, but the ones that I think you might want to check out would be, first of all, this becomes relevant in the event that you do not want to customize the single product page layouts. And that is an important question. If you are using Elementor, you don't necessarily have to use Elementor for designing the single product pages. But if you do want to use Elementor for designing them, you have to be sure to do it as I show you, because otherwise the problem is that the new versions of Elementor have what's called a single product template part. And if you use that, it will basically conflict with any other product, including LaunchFlows. So it's kind of a matter of just pick which tool you want to use and make sure that you're not trying to use 2 or 3 tools at the same time. Okay. For right now, I'm going to show you how to do this with LaunchFlows. So I'm going to leave it off. I recommend that most people allow users to register with their email as the username, because that's a very simple way to make sure everybody is who they say they are and so forth. These other things with solo checkout are not applicable here for now. Hiding free orders is good if you use the registration feature of LaunchFlows. I like to hide view from cart when you add a product. That prevents the messages from popping up whenever you add a new product. And then disabling backlinks in the event that somebody does end up at the cart page. These other ones are very specialized. We're not going to use these right now. Okay. So now with LaunchFlows, you really only need 3 things. That's our basic documentation. You need a product, a checkout, and you need a thank you, or at least somewhere to send somebody. Let's start out with the basic idea that when you make a product, you want to tell it where your checkout is. Now, out of the box, when you set up WooCommerce, it gives you these pages, and one of them is the checkout. Let's configure that first. I also want to clarify, LaunchFlows lets you create an unlimited number of custom checkouts, and you can even put a checkout on the actual product pages. Here for this example, this user wanted to see that everything was sent to a global checkout. So the first thing we do is we remove the default WooCommerce shortcode. And instead, we go to the Page tab, and we want to enable the LaunchFlows checkout. And the reason we want to do that is because that's what enables the software so that LaunchFlows can customize this going forward. Now, right now, it's all generic and white, but what you're going to see is that if we wanted to customize this, we can either individually add blocks, or we can use Elementor to change this layout. I've shown this in other videos, but whichever way you do it, when you add in the components, it basically remixes them. So just a quick preview. If I went to patterns, and again, I'm going to show this in Elementor, I could choose a 1-column checkout, a 2-column checkout, and all of the components would be there. So now when we go to preview this, we'll see that the layout is changed to whatever we set it up to be. Okay, that's the simple premise. If we don't put anything in at all, it will show the default layout of WooCommerce as it was. Now, in this case, we're going to want to add these order bump components. We're going to do them with Elementor, but let's come back to that. So now that we've got a checkout and we know we have a thank you, let's go back over here and let's set up our first product. So let's add new. And for this, sometimes I like to go to Pexels and just get like a nice picture of something. Vitamin, something. Doesn't matter. I didn't think it had that many things. Let's do pills. There we go. Okay, so let's just take a picture we can download. And we'll just take a small one. Okay, and now we've got something that we can use as a placeholder for the product image. So we'll call this, let's go main product. Join our club. I know it's weird because I just got some pills to download, but let's just say it's $497. And if this was a subscription product, we could do that, but it's all the same otherwise. Just make a product of any kind, and then let's give it an image so we can at least keep track of it. And we're gonna upload that Pexels image. Okay. And then finally, we're going to go over here to LaunchFlows. And this is where, if we don't do anything, LaunchFlows will send all products to the same checkout page. So again, you don't need to do this if you've only got the global checkout, but if you're doing custom stuff, choose the place you want the product to go after it's added to the cart. Now, it doesn't always have to be a checkout. It can actually be an upsell or another offer. It's just when the product is added to the cart by way of clicking the link or otherwise, it gives you a choice. Where do you want to send them now? And in this case, we want to send them to the checkout page. And likewise, after they buy this, we'd probably want to send them to the thank you page. But in some cases, you might want to send them to an additional post-checkout offer instead. Now, here's the part that's really remarkable. And this is going to be a big part of our conversation now, the product template. Before we do that, let's just review that you can also clean up the stuff on the default page if you're not using Elementor or otherwise. That gets rid of some of the extra junk that's normally on a product page, right? I'll show you this in a second before we go to Elementor. So let's publish this. And if let's view this now here. If I wasn't using Elementor, you see we've got like the reviews and whatever else is down here. We can clean that up with this option. Astra is actually remarkably clean, so it doesn't have a lot of. So sometimes I'll just clean up the page that way. And then there are a couple options here that aren't really relevant to the main product, but will be in a second. Solo checkout is if you don't want any other product to be in the cart when this is added. Now this might be relevant because it's a membership. Maybe somebody's been browsing around your store and you just want to say, hey, if you're buying this thing, you can only buy this thing by itself. And so that would be a good option to choose, and we'll put that on for now. And let's click update. So now we've got a product that can be added to the cart any number of ways. First and foremost is you can use the LaunchFlows checkout link. If we copy this, you'll notice that no matter what we do, and we'll add this to a sales page, it will send that product to our custom checkout, right? So I can make a cool new sales page out of anything I want to use in this case. So let's say this is my home page or my sales page. I can do with Elementor, let's call this main sales page. Okay, and let's use Elementor now, just for fun. And I'll just do a basic 2-column layout or something, or a table. Let's see if I've got Elementor Pro, so I can use one of their blocks. Maybe they got pricing. Let's put this one in. Okay. Obviously, I don't have 2 plans, but all you need to do is let's choose the Pro plan. I click on that, and then here, I want to make sure that the link goes to using what I just gave it, right? So in other words, we got pricing, features, footers, ribbon. We've got the style. We can choose whatever we want. But basically, what I want to make sure I do is say where it goes. So ribbon, footer, I got to find, there it is. We want to add the link that we just copied for that product to that button. And let's publish it. Now let's have a look, because now we've got essentially the starting point for this example. Somebody sees this offer and they go, I want the Pro plan. When they click it, that sends that product to the checkout. Ta-da! So simple, right? Let's modify the checkout page while we're here and make this into Elementor. Same as before, it works just as easy. We're just going to click on the Elementor button. Everything is easy with Elementor until you get into the weirdness of the specialty template parts. And here, let's do the same basic concept, except, you know what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to make it simple. I'm going to do it as a 2-column layout. Before I do that, though, let me just explain something. If I don't do anything here, it will display the checkout because I've already added the checkout to it. So watch this. If I don't do anything, just like with the normal page, let's make sure that we're on a default layout. Okay, so we're not customizing anything. It will still show the normal layout. But the thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that Astra is set up so the container doesn't go full width. So even though I'm using Elementor here, I'm just basically going to choose the Astra template that says no sidebar, and instead of stretching this page, I'm going to do it like contained, or I could even do it boxed, which looks kind of nice actually. And let's take a look at it now. Okay, so now I got a really neat checkout. The content is still being done by LaunchFlows because I haven't customized it, but I've got the option of doing it with Elementor. So let me show you what happens with the checkout with Elementor. Remember we talked about the idea that you can customize the layout by putting in the LaunchFlows components. Well, here we do the same basic idea as I was about to do before. Let's put in 2 columns, and then I can take the LaunchFlows components here and drag them in place. So if I say LaunchFlows, I've got all the basic components I need to set up the checkout, right? So it would be billing, and it would be the shipping if I got a shippable product, and just take the top, I think it's about 6 or 8 things. So you want to take everything to these here, and maybe including the coupon, right? So, and sometimes it's easier just to put them in the exact spot to start, so you know you've covered all the bases. This is a little faster with Gutenberg because we've got those patterns, but the end result comes really quickly anyway. It's unfortunate that Elementor, let's get rid of that one. Elementor doesn't give you a way to keep that, the selector open. That would be so awesome. Maybe if I do this, it'll be faster. Oh, that's a little faster. Okay, so I got additional fields. And, okay, so billing, shipping, additional, and then I need notices and login. And that's it. So then I get all the pieces, because what I'm doing here is, as I said, you don't need to do this, but if you want to customize, you need to have the sort of pieces that are cut out of the magazine. So I usually like to put the notices maybe at the top. It can go anywhere you want, though. It doesn't matter. Let's update this. Okay. And sometimes when I'm making these videos, sometimes it's hard to drag stuff, so sometimes I'll just use this. So you can put them at the top on either side. It makes no difference. Maybe I'll put them over on that side. So we got our login in the event somebody's already a member, notices. Then we got billing, shipping, additional fields. And then we've got our order review, payment, and a coupon. The coupon I usually like to put between the payment and whatever. Okay. Now, when I look at this, we'll see that we've now got our 2-column layout being made with Elementor, but that means I'll be able to customize it in a minute and add the order bump, right? Okay, so let's keep going. Now I've got the Elementor checkout, and I'm going to need to have an order bump product. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to close a few windows. The person asking said they want to have it where there's maybe 3-4 variations that a person can choose from to add to an order bump. So let's go ahead and make a new product that is a variable product. Variable order bump product. Okay, now we want to choose here variable product. And in this case, you don't have to worry about sold individually, because this would say you don't want to give the person access to quantities. We actually do. This request was, I want to allow people to add a bump and then change how many of the thing they want to, add to the product or add to the checkout. We do need an attribute. So what we're going to do is, in this particular case, let's just call it flavor. Okay. And we could say, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate. And then we want to click the box that says use for variations. So we've got a single product, and we want to give somebody 3 choices of this from which to choose. And so now we go to variations, and we say, let's create the variations from those 3 potential attributes. And there'll only be 3 choices. You could have multiple, obviously, attributes like size, color, fabric, and then you could have 3 times 3 times 3 is 9. Here we only have the 3. So now we have to set these up. And for this, I need, let's go ahead and get, let's get something that represents, there we go. I just need another image for these products. Let's download this. Obviously, you'd optimize this in the real world. We want to add that image to the individual variations. And for this demo, I'm not going to do 3 different ones. Make sure that it's enabled. Make sure you give it a price. It doesn't matter what the price is here. So let's say this is 100. And you can do all these other things if you want, if it's shippable. I'm just going to make these virtual to make my life easier right now. Let's add this one. again, the shippable, just make it that the product is shipped, right? So I'm just doing this for simplicity, so it's one less thing to set up. It has no effect on the outcome. This one is, let's say, the same. Let's just say it's 125 because strawberry is more money. And then finally, we'll do chocolate. And we'll make this 135 because who doesn't like the chocolate? Be sure to click Save Changes and make these all the same. Okay, Save Changes. Now, we also want to go ahead and make sure that in the actual product, we've set the main image because that is what will show up on the single product page at the beginning. And here's where it gets interesting. This is where the fun stuff happens. It is possible, if you wanted, you could add a checkout to this single product page. I will show that in a second. But in this case, our particular request came in that they wanted to use the main checkout. But I just want to show you, out of the box, here's what it looks like from Astra. This is the default template. There's no, Elementor going on. Let's further refine that by getting rid of the sidebar with Astra, just because why would we want that? So no sidebar. And let's do this one, same idea, we'll do content boxed. So once we clean that up, we've got a really nice looking, out of the box default template. Notice that the single product page has the ability to choose a particular thing, and the single product has the ability to have different quantities before you send it to the cart. Now, here's the important part. For many instances, this is the best way to set up a variable product, is you send somebody with LaunchFlows to this single product page cleaned up, because you can remove or customize all of this various stuff to hide all the stuff you don't want to show. And that's kind of a neat feature of LaunchFlows. Even if you left this stuff on here, this is still a neat way to get a hold of the ability for somebody to just kind of add whatever their choice is to the cart. And you can see when you do that, we just need to make sure that the product is directing to the checkout page. But the bottom line is, this is an option that we want to consider. So let's make sure that our LaunchFlows is set up for this variable. Remember we said before, where do we want it to go? If we put the checkout on this page, we could just choose variable order bump product. And in that case, we'd want to make sure that we also add a checkout to the bottom of this page. And this is covered in more detail how you can further customize it, but just look how easy this is. Now, we've got a one-page product. Let's clear the cache. Let's make sure I saved it. And sometimes what I do is I get rid of this. And let's test one more thing, make sure we're good. Let's make sure we get the right template from Astra. Here's where I forgot. I forgot the most important part. Hey, it's late. Give me a break. Select the product template. We need to choose LaunchFlows because this is what loads the software that allows this to happen. Sorry. Hey, I only wrote the program. It's not like I'm 55. Cut me a break. Okay, so when we refresh the page, now we got the checkout at the bottom. Okay, so this is an option that's very attractive because watch what happens. If somebody adds the strawberry and I want 2 of those, look, it's an instant one-page sales and checkout, right? How awesome is that? But in this particular example, the person didn't want to do that. They wanted to make it where they sent it to the default checkout. So simply go back to the next step and choose checkout instead, and we can remove the checkout from this page. We're not going to need it. Now, here's the fun stuff. I want to just point this out. Let's say you didn't want to use the default theme that is Astra for doing the product layout. You wanted to use Elementor. No big deal. All you need to do is decide, how am I going to make this appear? Notice out of the box that Elementor is not showing up here, right? That's important. Let's go back and review what we need to do with Elementor to make that appear. First of all, double check that LaunchFlows has not disabled the theme, which it is not. Next, we go to Elementor, and again, this is not an Elementor tutorial, but you have to enable it for products. And I normally set it up like this, or I disable the colors and the fonts. And that's what will make Elementor available to us here on the product page. Let's try it again now. Okay, now this is the most important part for customizing single product pages with anything other than the default Gutenberg and that kind of stuff. If you are doing this, do not make a single product template part with Elementor Pro. If you do that, it will bypass all of this and prevent you from being able to customize the page. Here's how you do it instead. Just make your first template one time in a single product. And here we can choose a variety of ways to look at the stuff. If we look at our template, right now I've got the page layout default. That means it's just showing all my default things. If I customize it, I can choose to ignore this because I'm just customizing it below. But if this bothers me, I can also just go to Elementor Canvas and it'll hide all, it won't hide all the stuff until I save the page. But if I click update and refresh, it will hide the stuff that I don't need to see. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let me go back actually. Let me just show you the results if I go here to default. If I go to default, let's go ahead and do what maybe is a custom template. And if I want to customize this with LaunchFlows, if I go to the components here, I similarly have product widgets or components. So if I type LaunchFlows product, you can see I've got add to cart, breadcrumb, all the pieces that are up here. I can just move them down below. And when I put them down below, it will on the front end show me them in the position that I've put them. So let me show you a quick example. If I take the product images, I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to take the product title, and I'll do the same thing I did before, which is here at LaunchFlows product title. Product title. Just I'm going to move a couple pieces. What you'll see happen is on the front, this product will now have the image and the title moved down below. Let's take a preview of it. You see, it's kind of similar to cutting things out of a newspaper or a magazine with a knife. LaunchFlows allows us to, with JavaScript and so forth, to take something that's already being shown and move it to a new spot. But the neat thing is if I fully customize this, I can do whatever I want to do. And once I've got it the way I want it, I just simply right click, and here's the critical part. I save either the bit that I have rearranged as a template, or I save the whole product layout as a template. Why is this important? Watch. If I save this single product custom layout, what I'm doing this way is it's just a regular template. Now, anytime I make a custom product, I just choose this as the layout on the page. And when I do that, I don't have to worry about the template part from the theme builder of Elementor interfering with things. I'm literally just making an ordinary template, okay? And that is the big difference because, as I said before, it's hard to get your fingers wrapped around it. But if you were to implement the single product template of the theme builder of Elementor, it will break all of the LaunchFlows stuff. I got the error because I interrupted it. So let me show you what not to do. Do not try to mix and match LaunchFlows components with this. Because if you choose this and create one, this will win. And this does not allow LaunchFlows to work within it because it has its own mechanisms for generating all of the output of the single product. Okay? This is a drag. It's a drag for me because every single page builder, every single theme, all have different ways of doing things. But Elementor in particular has made it that this is a very powerful thing. And most people just default to using it. And in doing so, that's why we've had to put in that sort of override feature. If you use this, which, by the way, you absolutely can, don't try to customize the single product page with LaunchFlows. That's it. Okay, I've belabored the point. Let's go back and just do with this what needs to be done anyway, which has nothing to do with showing the page. So in that case, I'm just going to remove all the Elementor stuff, and I'm back to the product itself. Because what I really want now is to simply go and look at the actual variation numbers. I got number 46, 47, and 48. And why do I need those? Because I want to put an order bump on that checkout. Remember the checkout? So here we've got the checkout, and this is built with Elementor, which is fine. We're going to go into Elementor, and now we're going to customize this by adding in the order bumps. And so we've already got our pieces here. It doesn't matter where you put them. I could put the order bump probably somewhere above the order review might be a nice spot. So simply type in LaunchFlows order bump, and let's drag one of them in here. And what I would probably say is kind of cool is you could wrap this all with like its own, you could put an intersection in here. So let's say here, if we add, let's do this. Let's put an intersection in, and let's get rid of the second column. I'm not trying to make this a design tutorial, but now we take this and stylistically, a lot of times people want to have this kind of cool dashed border, and let's make it red, and we're going to make it 5 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. I'm not sure, it looks like it should be thicker, but for some reason my display isn't showing it. Could be because I'm in the video, but we'll see. Okay, so I got a dash border, and let's put the order bump component in here. Now remember, our product had 3 numbers, number 46, 47, and 48. So, oh, there it goes. So let's duplicate this. And now all I'm going to do is just click on each one, and I'm going to say product ID 46, 47, and 48. And by the way, there's an option in each of these to add a component title, but I'm just going to add a generic title above all of them that says, but wait, add these. And I'll put in maybe like an H3, and I could style that and make it bold. Maybe. Okay, let's take a look what we've got. And by the way, each of these, when you're in Elementor, has the options to change it from square to circle and so forth. If you are planning on allowing people to add more than one, leave it as a square, because that's what checkboxes are. If you want them to choose from one or the other, turn it into a circle, because those are radio buttons. You can also hide the title image and so forth, but like, let's just show all of it. Let's take a look at what we've got now on our checkout page. Ta-da! So here's what's going on. We've got the 3 variable product options where you can do them like add them to the order, you see. Notice in the order review there. Okay, and one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make this page a little wider because I put like really long titles on it. So I'm going to use Astra, and I'll just say, instead of boxed, I'll do full width contained to give me a little more breathing room. Okay, so notice now we are done. Now we've got an order bump on the checkout page, but remember we had that main product, right? So let's just go to our shop. Here's the main product. Let's go to it because remember, oh, actually I take it back. We had the main sales page. Okay, here we go. Let's add the main product. It's the membership thing, it's $39 a month. And we're at the checkout now with that in place. And by the way, we could put the bump in a different spot. If we went back in Elementor, we could grab this whole intersection and just say, you know what, I want to put that like, maybe I'll put it here, and maybe we'll put that coupon below, whatever. So now when we get to the checkout page, we've got the product that was added to the cart, which we can still adjust, right? We can add more of that too, but we can also add in the order bump items. And when we add those in, those all can have the quantities adjusted, and it's as easy as just going up and down and the person adjusts their order. Notice that when they add something that they can also remove it from the cart this way. So you got like full control. I recommend when you do this that you can save this template as well. So now that I've got this whole template, save this as a template for future use. My custom checkout, and whatever you're going to do. Now you can have it available to you in your layout, right? So next time you want to make a custom checkout, you don't have to drag all the stuff from scratch. Just insert it and call it a day. And that, my friends, is a long but really thorough, from start to finish, with Astra, Elementor, LaunchFlows, custom sales page on the fly with both Gutenberg, Elementor being shown, variable products, order bumps, a custom checkout page, and more. Now, one last thing I want to demonstrate for you is, let's say you wanted to make these variables that they couldn't pick all of them or any of them. They can only pick one at a time. Simply go to LaunchFlows and here, only one variation. That would only allow you to choose one at a time. Now let's see how that differs. Since I'm in Elementor, I'm going to change the order bump to show them as a circle, because that's more like what a radio button would do. You know, pick one or the other. Now let's see how this is different. When we refresh the page, now watch what happens. I can only choose one of these options, and when I choose another one, it removes the first one. See? I went from vanilla to strawberry, and now I'm going to go to chocolate. Ta-da! So the variable, one only variable, only has to do with the product itself, but the solo checkout is the thing that prevents you from having that other product in place with anything else. So let's finally go back and fix this main product, because I realized I originally was talking about it and I set it as a solo checkout, and that's going to be a problem. See, solo checkout would have meant that it would be gone when somebody tried to add the order bump items, and that's not really what we want. So let's go now to our main sales page and do it one last time. And we're going to clear out the cart so we know what we got. Okay, start from scratch, main subscription product. It's in there, and I want, let's get two of them, one for the kids. I'm going to add vanilla as an order bump, and notice those two are still there. Now, if I went back and switched these checkboxes and I said, you know, you can have any variation, I can just fill the cart up, and there's so many more things you can do, but that is all for now. I will see you in the next video.